Yo, what is going on, everyone? I am back with another review video. It is going to be on my Cooler Master MM731. I genuinely just did not like my time with this mouse. So the shape is not going to be like bad for claw grip. Typically, I always want a high hump and a fast drop off. Unlike the Starlight 12, where the drop is really, really elongated, so your palm is really going to hit this flatter side of the mouse. Although it is not a claw grip specific mouse, I still get a way better grip on my Phantom than I do with this MM731. I really do think it's just because this mouse is just genuinely like really big. It definitely feels like somewhere between a medium and a large. I know that my hands are much smaller than the average person, so I'm not going to say it's too big for some people. It's just going to be like kind of an adjustment period, especially if you claw. Another thing I think people have to get used to is the coating. The coating on the back is actually really grippy, but the sides and the buttons just did not feel right to me. Maybe some other people that actually use an MM731 can actually confirm or deny if the sides and the clicks are a different coating than the main back over here. Maybe the reason for me being able to get a good grip is because I put my palm down, I put my fingers on, and then I curl them in. So I get a really locked in grip, especially in my palm area, which is what I need for stability overall. But yeah, I just did not find the coating very good, especially since I had to add these grips, which they add a little bit of extra grip, but you can see that my thumb has no problem moving over it. It's really not that much of an improvement. It's only a slight improvement. I really do feel like you could get better grips. Definitely some BTLs or something. Like, these grips are just not going to do it. They also look really weird. I know that my camera can't pick it up, but it looks like wood. It looks like the texture of like a wood floor, but like black. It's actually like very bizarre to me on why they couldn't just go for like a non-designed grip, especially on a mouse like this. Oh, there, you can probably see it a little bit better. You can kind of see the lines. I know that my camera is really blurry, but you are able to kind of see it. Another thing that's really important, I think, is going to be the clicks. The clicks are definitely something I actually really wanted to touch on. These clicks feel very hollow. I completely understand the point of using optical switches. Like, wow, it's light speed in a way because it passes through a beam of light, so it's going to be really fast. You're not going to notice that kind of difference in game between optical switches and traditional mechanical switches in mice. I really do feel like just sticking to mechanical switches until opticals start to feel better. Just don't even do opticals anymore. I haven't felt a single good optical switch yet. I've used this and I've used the Rocket ones. They just feel really bad. They always feel hollow. The sound is really weird, and then the click in is not nearly as crispy as even something like an Omron 20M. Like, those feel much crispier than this. Speaking of the buttons, I did want to touch base on the side buttons. I only use side buttons for muting and deafening on Discord, so I do not use side buttons nearly as much as other people. I do think the placement is pretty good. Even for my small hand, it is right where the indent will go for your thumb. So it's in a really good spot, although I do feel like these are just really bad. They're really, really small, and there's tons of post-travel when you click all the way in. You can, like, put your finger, like, through the mouse almost. It goes deep. Like, it goes really deep. It feels very, very bizarre. I do not like using them at all, even though I use them very minimally. The next thing I want to talk about is the shape. The shape is incredibly bizarre. It's a pretty aggressive ergonomic shape, so it's not going to be something as natural as like an Orochi or just like slight ergos like an NPO1S, for example. It's not going to be as like comfortable, to be honest. It's going to be very aggressive. So if you're trying an ergo, I would not try this mouse to be your first ergo. I feel like something like an NPO1S from Vaxee or even a Razer Orochi is going to be a much easier experience if you're coming from a symmetrical mouse to an ergo. Just something slight, nothing too dramatic, especially like this. The indent where your fingers go, especially for claw, they are placed really well. My ring and pinky finger go right in the indent, and so does my thumb. And like I said, the side buttons are placed very nicely. It's just something about how clunky this feels. It feels really big no matter how much I relax my grip to really get more of the mouse in my hand. It just always feels clunky moving it around, especially for like flick shots. This mouse just feels very bizarre. I can't really put into words how weird it feels. I'm going to bring up two mice later that actually I feel like are much better shapes and much easier to get to, although both are very aggressive ergonomic shapes. The next thing I want to talk about is the scroll wheel. This scroll wheel is honestly really nice. I do prefer a scroll wheel that's very high in tension, like something like the Fnatic Bolt or even like an Gear XM1. Like, those scroll wheels are really, really nice. I don't like things like the Starlight, mainly because they just feel too loose. I just really like to feel the defined steps when using the scroll wheel. So if I can't really feel it and it feels too smooth, then that just like kind of irritates me in a way. The other thing I want to talk about was weight. Although this mouse is very big and quite clunky feeling, the weight is actually very, very nice on this mouse. The next thing I want to talk about was weight. This mouse is very impressive for weight. It comes in at 59 grams, which is what they say on their website. Give or take 1 or 2 grams, it really doesn't matter. You do actually notice how light the mouse is, especially when playing. It actually feels really good for Apex, especially for Valorant too, especially when you have to make large adjustments if you're on a slower pad or if you're on a lower sense. It feels really good altogether. The next thing is sensor placement. I found this really interesting actually. It made it feel like my sense went higher in speed. I don't particularly know why. I don't even know if I like the sensor placement, but I know I don't dislike it. I'm kind of very indifferent right now. I do want to try more mice where the sensor is actually higher. It's a very interesting experience. It did offer something new, something that I haven't really felt before. I mean, if you do know where you like your sensor, then it genuinely doesn't matter what I say at this point. If you don't like how high it is, then just don't get the mouse. The next thing is the feet. The feet are actually really good on this mouse. They're really low in initial friction, even on something like a Vaxee PB pad, which is genuinely really, like, honestly, I do feel like this is a very slow control pad. The initial friction is really nice on these feet, and then it offers like a really nice stable stop. You can see when I do this, there's a lot of spins. Like, it feels really nice. It kind of makes the pad feel almost like a cloud. Like, it's a very smooth, very, very smooth glide. In terms of battery life, I've had this for around 2 weeks. I've used it for a week straight, and honestly, it's been pretty good. I haven't noticed it, go down in battery, especially with the RGB on. I normally turn RGB off, especially for wireless mice, but I do leave it on until it dies to test how good the battery life is. The next thing I want to talk about is comparisons with other ergonomic mice that I just feel are much better. So out of all 3 of these mice, I do feel like the MM731 is going to be the worst price per dollar and the worst performance out of the 3, sadly. I know I said really bad things about my Pulsar X-Lite before, but I actually have come to love this shape, maybe because I'm able to really grasp the concept of other mice, especially getting out of my comfort zone, using ergo mice nowadays. This was my first real ergonomic shape, and I hated it at the beginning, but I actually do really appreciate this shape a lot more. Although it is very large, it doesn't feel as clunky as my MM731 for whatever reason. I really can't figure out why this mouse just feels so bad in hand for me personally. Although something that will always stay near and dear in my heart is my Xtrfy M4 Wireless. I have always loved this ergonomic shape. It just feels so nice. It definitely is a little bit smaller, especially than the other 2 mice, but this mouse, it just feels so locked in place. The really aggressive right side where your thumb goes, it really like lets your finger grip in there. It's something kind of like a G303 from like the Shroud Edition mouse that came out, because it just doesn't let your finger really go past there. It just locks your thumb in, so it allows for a really stable and consistent grip. With all 3 of these mice, I've used them in Valorant, Apex, and all the real games that I do play a lot of. And out of all 3, I'm able to get a really consistent grip, really consistent performance with these 2 mice specifically. But the MM731, no matter how many days, how many hours I put into the mouse, I just could not find a really stable area for me to use the mouse. It always felt like I could have hit a shot if I was using any other mouse. I can't really explain why it feels so bad for me. I hope that other people may be able to explain why they think that this mouse is good, but personally, I just do not like this mouse at all. In terms of price and is it worth it, when I put these other 2 mice on the table, I cannot recommend this mouse at 90 bucks. For 10 more, you can get an M4 Wireless, something that I will probably always really say people should give it a try. Although I don't think the Xtrfy M4 is going to be for everyone, I definitely think that this is a much safer purchase than an MM731. The other thing too is you have that whole Cooler Master build quality, which I didn't talk about, which is actually really good on my unit. You can see that my form is flexing. I'm trying really hard to make this thing creak. It flexes like a little bit, but only when I apply like a lot of force. I could probably break this mouse if I wanted to, but I can't do it with these other 2 mice, which is surprising because it's missing like a whole base plate and this build quality is still this good, but I can't make this thing flex no matter how hard I try. I just feel like if you're going to buy an ergo, especially a wireless one, because of course I'm not going to bring out a wired one to compare to a wireless mouse, I think you could either wait for a V2 Mini from Pulsar that's coming with the X-Lite, or you could get their V2 if you prefer a bigger ergo, because I know that they make significant improvements from the first version. Although I do recommend the M4 much more. You do get 2 shells, although the only one that you should be using is the original shell, because the second one just sucks balls. It is so bad. I don't know why they made an extra shell for a mouse that already had a shape. If it was like for the M42 that's coming out, that makes sense because it came with 2 shells already. It's really weird that they would add just like a flatter shell afterwards. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, that pretty much is all for the review. I do want to say thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. It has been quite the journey for me, honestly. I genuinely never thought I'd get past 500, mainly because like I'm just a random dude that has opinions like everybody else. If anyone else wants to content create, they really should. It's just that leap of really getting your content out there. It's a lot of anxiety for me when I started, and I think if you're having that same anxiety, you should just try it. But that is pretty much all for the review. My next review is going to be on my Vaxee PA. I love this pad. It is just so consistent in terms of performance. I just really, really like this pad. This is definitely one of... I know I keep saying every pad is one of my new favorites, but I like mouse pads for me, for some reason, they've been so enjoyable to review recently, mainly because I guess they just offer something different for most of the pads that I've been using recently. But mice, much like the MM731, are just kind of like meh for me. I'm really in a mouse drought. I really need some new mice in my life. I'm kind of getting in like a mouse depression, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, that's pretty much all for the review. Thank you so much for the 1K subscribers, and I hope to see you on the next video. Peace.
Really good, but whenever I use it, people shoot it. Like, that's not even a joke. I don't know what is up with my luck. You can shoot his flash. How the fuck are they shooting her?
It's a nice gun though.
Oh, you killed it. Wait, when did you get the off? Nice shot. What the fuck is that one? Oh!